It is time for another Nintendo Face Off. In one corner, from 1998, we have The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And in the other corner, from 2017, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And we're just going to jump right into this. And I'm honestly very, very excited for this one. Very, very excited for this one. I think it is going to be quite the showdown. So, welcome on in, everybody. So glad you're here. Steak is here early. Welcome, welcome. Let's jump in, shall we? The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64. It became the first Zelda game built fully in 3D. Players control Link as he travels across Hyrule, moving between childhood and adulthood through time travel in order to stop the Gerudo King, Ganondorf. The game follows a structured progression built around dungeons, items, story-driven advancement. The game was developed by Nintendo Entertainment Analysis and Development Division, directed by a team including Anuma, Koizumi, and produced by Miyamoto. Written by Kensuke Tanabe and scored by Koji Kondo. It introduced mechanics such as Z targeting, context-sensitive buttons, and music-based progression using the ocarina. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, released in 2017 for the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch. Set near the end of the Zelda timeline, it follows Link as he attempts to stop Calamity Ganon and save Princess Zelda. The game features a fully open version of Hyrule and allows players to complete objectives and the main story in a non-linear order. Developed by MPD, directed by Hidemaru Fujibayashi, and produced by Eiji Aonuma. The game was designed to rethink Zelda conventions. Breath of the Wild introduced physics and chemistry systems that emphasize experimentation and player-driven exploration. It launched on March 3rd, 2017 as the final Nintendo-published Wii U game and a launch title for the Nintendo Switch. So, right off the bat, I want to see what everybody's thinking here. Nady Nay coming in hot says Ocarina over Breath of the Wild. Okay. Ocarina over Breath of the Wild. Just like that. Just like that. Okay. Well, we got to get the poll going. And so if you're on YouTube, make sure to get your vote in. Getting it set up as we speak. Here we go. Start the poll. There it is. There it is. So, I want to grab a few more chats here. It says, so Joey's never played Ocarina. Nady Nay says, I'll always choose Miyamoto games over others. Joey picks Breath of the Wild. Makes sense. Only playing that one. Totally get it. Totally get it. Ocarina has the music. Breath of the Wild has nothing from Cryptic. Wow. Okay, this is gonna be spicy. Steak says, love Breath of the Wild. I can't contribute on Ocarina, though. I have to confess, I've never played through. Steak. My heart is breaking for you and Joey. Cryptic says they are both great in different ways, though. Joey says, I tried this summer, just didn't get it. Hoping for a remaster, I'll give it a new go. Cryptic says, sadly, the 3DS port is the definitive version, but not a lot of people have a 3DS these days. Fun fact for me, I have been bitten by the Zelda bug very badly, and I want to finish up some of the Zelda games I've not completed. Majora's Mask being one of those. But I am probably 3/4, if not a little further, through a playthrough of Ocarina of Time on my 3DS. So I'm going to finish that and then do Majora's Mask next. I literally picked that game up when it launched on 3DS and Never played it. So, as Cryptic said, it's the definitive way. So that's how I'm gonna play it. With that, we're gonna move over into round two review scores. Ocarina of Time received unprecedented critical acclaim at launch. It earned perfect scores from the majority of major gaming publications and is ranked by Metacritic and Game Rankings as the highest reviewed video game of all times. Of all time, critics described it as flawless and a new benchmark for action adventure games. That is some praise. That is some praise right there. Breath of the Wild also received universal acclaim and was the highest rated game of 2017 on Metacritic. It holds the record for the most perfect review scores of any game from any year, and the game won multiple Game of the Year awards, including the Game Awards and DICE Awards, and was widely ranked as the best game of 2017. So, I asked chat, how do you guys review each of these games? What score would you give Ocarina and Breath of the Wild? It's an easy one. It's an easy one for me. They're literally both tens. They are both tens. I could not stop playing them. That's how I would that's how I would look at my review mostly. Like when you literally eat, drink, and sleep these games because you can't get enough of them. That's what I would go with. So I see some pushback towards Breath of the Wild, some a little bit of pushback about the weapon breaking. Okay. Uh that that was a bit annoying, definitely. Nate says I'd give Breath of the Wild an 8.5 because there was a whole lot of nothing. Interesting. Okay. I mean, fair. Make sure I'm not missing anybody else. That Demonic Brawler says Ocarina of Time, 9 out of 10. Breath of the Wild, 9 out of 10. But spoiler warning, Tears of the Kingdom, 10 out of 10. Ooh, okay. Okay. Cryptic says I would give Breath of the Wild an 8 and Ocarina of Time like a 9.5. Here's what I will say. If I wanted to get a bit nitpicky, the water temple is what comes to mind on Ocarina of Time as something that was not fantastic, right? But not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination, but not fantastic. Outside of that, I don't know what else negative to say about the game. I really don't. I remember just literally being in awe of Ocarina of Time when I first played it. Like, just in awe of it. But now, when you look at Breath of the Wild, you will see complaints about uh, divine beasts, as Cryptic is pointing out. Divine beasts were worse than the Water Temple. You see a handful of complaints about, the weapons breaking, and I get that. And I was not a huge fan of the the bosses in the divine beasts. They didn't really do too much for me. The reason Breath of the Wild still scores so high for me is because it did so many other things so right. Shrines were amazing. They felt very Zelda, very fun. Getting the Master Sword, getting to go wherever you want. When they updated the game and you could finally see where you had traveled and realizing there were areas of the map you may have never touched, that was amazing. Absolutely amazing for me. And both of these games just capture such an amazing sense of awe and were just such a joy to play through. In fact, I was like, "Man, I wish I had more time before this show because I would have loved to have spent a good couple hours within each of these games. It would have been great if I had had the time. Like so great. Let's see. Joey said Breath of the Wild was a 9 out of 10 for me. Tears of the Kingdom 8 out of 10 and Link's Awakening Game Boy was a 10 out of 10. Okay. All right. I like it. I like it. Cryptic says my favorite part of Breath of the Wild was not the game itself. It was the community it built. Talking with friends, seeing where they started, what they ran into, what they found, etc. Very great point. Yeah. We were all there was so many of us all playing this at the same time. And 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 to this day, I saw a clip from Breath of the Wild either today or yesterday of a guardian. They were trying to set it up to do something cool. It ended up becoming like part of the trick shot on its own where it like shot itself way up into the air. It wasn't the intention of the person playing, but that's what ended up happening. And there's so many crazy moments in Breath of the Wild. There's always something going on or something that you can try to do or try to pull off that is like just crazy. The clips over the years of Breath of the Wild have been one of the best parts of the game, and just seeing how creative the community gets. So, game over said Ocarina of Time 8 out of 10, Majora's Mask 9 out of 10, Breath of the Wild 8 out of 10, Tears of the Kingdom 9 out of 10. Interesting. So the two that are going head to head tonight, Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild, you got them ranked, you got them neck and neck, which is cool. Nate said, beating a game with only 18% completion, I feel like that's a lot of padding. Like Nintendo could fit more story or something. That's why I docked it. Ah, got you. Okay. Also, guys, if you're in the YouTube chat, make sure to get your vote in. There's a poll. You guys decide who wins this matchup. As of right now, Ocarina of Time is ahead of Breath of the Wild. So make sure to get your vote in. Demonic Brawler says, serious question for all the Legend of Zelda fans. Which would you rather have first? An Ocarina of Time remake or a Link to the Past remake in 3D? Ooh, okay. Okay. Good question there. We'll see what chat has to say. Uh Cryptic says with Tears of the Kingdom, I felt drained. I felt like it wasn't new and fresh anymore when I first played Breath of the Wild. I get it. I get it. I had to give myself time to fully get into Tears of the Kingdom. I loved it, and I think I even like it better than Breath of the Wild, but I took a long break. And that was just because I was playing so many other things too. So, oh, and Cryptic said, "Yeah, I agree with Cryptic again. I didn't want to jump into Tears of the Kingdom. Too ambitious." Got it. Matt says enemies are basic in Breath of the Wild. I got tired and bored of fighting the same 5 enemy types over and over, except with different elemental powers. That's also a really good point, and something that like I noticed with myself. I avoided combat a lot of times when it came to Breath of the Wild. Like I did not care to engage with the enemies. To me, it was more fun exploring the world and just not even dealing with them. I felt like now, and I was the same way with Tears of the Kingdom for quite some time, and then started spending a bit more time doing the combat, and that became a lot more. It became more fun. Like I started to enjoy it more. But I can understand the the complaint with just the basic enemies having different elemental powers. I see it. So getting back to the question, Cryptic said, "We got a Link to the Past 3D remake in Link Between Worlds." Well, um, but he also says, "But I want a Link to the Past remake because we had a lot of versions of Ocarina of Time already." Yeah, yeah. So Matt says, "I feel the same way. I'd avoid the fights." Nate says, "I get tired of just walking around a world and looking for stuff. I don't want to create my own adventure. You designed something for me to do. Breath of the Ubisoft Wild." Here we go. Here we go. Demonic Brawler says, "Tears of the Kingdom took what Breath of the Wild did and improved upon it 5 times over. And without Ultra Hand or Fuse, I can't go back to Breath of the Wild. I can always, but I can always and will be able to go uh, back to Ocarina of Time." Interesting. Okay, love that. Very, very cool. And that's that. What I always wanted, my hope for Tears of the Kingdom is that there was going to be DLC, and that DLC was going to bring with it everything that we had in Breath of the Wild. So, well after the majority of people have played and completed the game, we would then have access to, the Sheikah Slate again, and have all those powers, and to be able to basically do, you know, so much in Tears of the Kingdom. I think it would have been just an absolute blast. Matt says, "Never got to play A Link Between Worlds, so even letting us play that on NSO would be enough for me." Oh, it's so good. It is a fantastic Zelda game, no question. Cryptic said, "I avoided the fights as well. I will say the satisfaction of beating a Lionel was great, though." Yes. You got rewarded constantly in Breath of the Wild for doing challenging objectives. Yes. Like, unlike Nate, I loved walking around and just exploring and looking for shrines. That kind of stuff was fun for me. I get like I get where he's coming from. I see both sides. But that sense of exploration in Breath of the Wild was you could get the sense that this is what the designers of the original Legend of Zelda game wanted us to feel. And I love that aspect of it. Demonic Brawler says Ocarina of Time only got a remaster, not a remake. It deserves from the ground up remake. Ooh, okay. Matt says, "Yeah, no desire to go back and replay Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom unless my son wants to play it someday, but I can go back and replay Ocarina of Time anytime." There you go. There you go. Interesting. Nate says, "Big negative for Ocarina of Time is just going back to it nowadays, or trying to recommend it to someone new." Yep. This this is it's really interesting when you get a chance to go back and play some of the games that you maybe played through when you were younger. I just did Metroid Prime Remastered, and I had a great time with it, but it was one of those things that I think I enjoyed it more the first time than I did the second time, and that kinda shocked me, honestly. Ocarina of Time, though, as I played it on, like, my 3DS, that wasn't the case. I'm like, "Yeah, this is great. I will keep going. I will keep going." So, Joey says, "Does the love for Ocarina come from nostalgia, or is it hard to pick up for the first time playing?" It it's just that 64 games don't tend to age that well, so to recommend them to people that have been playing games like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, it can be a bit of a tough pill to swallow. Um, Mid-Fi Senpai coming in hot saying Zelda is for little rubber people that don't shave yet. Fair. Joey says, "Because the one thing I noticed when I tried that not being able to jump is weird, and N64 camera controls are just janky." Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's very real. Like, w when you go back to when that game came out in 98, this was revolutionary. It was like nothing else and was just absolutely incredible. So good. Love that round two, guys. Let's get into round three, reception. Ocarina of Time was praised for its world design, gameplay systems, cinematics, and soundtrack. Reviewers highlighted the scale of Hyrule, the emotional impact of the story, and the introduction of Z targeting and context sensitive controls, while some noted technical limitations compared to other N64 titles. The game was widely seen as a defining moment for 3D games. Commercially, it broke pre order records, became the best selling game of 1998 in the United States, and sold over 7 million copies worldwide. And I had to make sure I got the gold cart on that one. That was very, very important to me. Breath of the Wild was praised for reinventing the Zelda formula through open world design and emergent gameplay. Critics highlighted its freedom of movement, physics driven problem solving, and lack of traditional objective markers. Unexpected interactions between systems became widely shared online. Some criticism focused on weapon durability and performance issues, though updates addressed parts of these concerns. The game broke sales records for a Nintendo launch title and became the best selling Zelda game with over 34 million copies sold. And I just want to hear from you guys if you've got any fun stories from picking this one up. If you've got any fun stories from picking up either of these games, this was the this was, going and picking up the Switch and getting home and firing up Breath of the Wild. It was a great time. It was just an absolutely great time. My son came with me. We we picked up the Switch, we picked up the Pro controller, we picked up Breath of the Wild and just immediately went home and fired it up, and it was such a great time. And it was also just such a great time, like, this was the infancy of this podcast. It was the infancy of building this Nintendo community and doing these streams and trying to figure out these puzzles and watching the way, other people, like, people would be watching stream going, "Oh, I didn't do that puzzle that way. I didn't think about doing it that." And then they would explain how they did it, and I'm like, "Oh, that was probably a better way," or, vice versa, whatever the case may be. That was what one of the things that made this so special. So, um, grabbing a few chats here. It says, let's see. Nadine said Miyamoto just really couldn't do wrong. He knew what players wanted, for sure. For sure. Matt says when Ocarina of Time came to NSO and I went back and played it, I had no issues with the controls or anything, but not sure how it would be for someone coming in completely new. Yes. Yep. RX Gaming says, I remember getting a Switch and Breath of the Wild when the Switch ran out. People were just getting the game with no Switch. Yeah, for sure. I mean, for a while there, it had a higher attach rate. It had an attach rate of like over 100%, which was just insanity, absolute insanity. But it was a really uh, a really fun time, and just something I look back on so fondly. Matt says, I just say those who struggle with the controls, as the kids say, get good." Here we go. Ocarina of Time also had FOMO. Who was lucky enough to get the gold cartridge? My cousin got that version, and I was bummed I got the dirty gray. I actually ended up with both. As I've collected throughout the years, I've ended up with a gray copy and the gold cart. But the gold cart was so like, yeah. I wish I would have loved if, even though the cart was tiny, if Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom had been little gold carts, it would have been fantastic. I would have loved it. So, uh, there you guys are so funny. You guys are still facing off with Mario World and Mario 3. I love it. That's great. That's great. All right. Well, that was um that was a good round 3. Let's get into round 4. Talking gameplay here. Ocarina of Time is played from a third person perspective In a fully three-dimensional world, combat centers on sword and shield gameplay, supported by items such as bombs, projectiles, magic spells. The introduction of Z targeting allowed players to lock onto enemies or objects while the camera tracked targets automatically. Context sensitive actions simplified controls by assigning multiple interactions to a single button. Progression is driven by dungeon exploration, item acquisition, and optional side quests. Music plays a central role, with Link learning songs on the ocarina to solve puzzles, teleport, and advance the story. Drawing the Master Sword triggers the game's time travel mechanic, allowing players to switch between child and adult Link, each with unique abilities. Breath of the Wild emphasizes open world exploration and player's choice. Link can run, climb nearly any surface, swim, and glide using a paraglider, all governed by a stamina system. Uh, a physics and chemistry engine governs how objects interact, allowing environmental solutions such as using weather, terrain, and materials to defeat enemies. Weapons and shields degrade and break, encouraging constant adaptation. Players gather food and materials to cook meals and elixirs that restore health, stamina, or provide temporary bonuses. The Sheikah Slate grants abilities including remote bombs, object manipulation, ice creation, time stopping, photography, and map marking. Progression is tied to shrines, divine beasts, and exploration, with spirit orbs increasing health or stamina, and Korok seeds expanding inventory capacity. And so, looking back, I think the conversation that is had the most, it seems to me anyway, is that dungeons were missed in Breath of the Wild. Dungeons were really missed. And so that that to me is one of the big talking points. As amazing as a Breath of the Wild was, the lack of dungeons made it tough. Made the conversation around it like this isn't quite Zelda. It isn't quite Zelda. It has the Zelda name, but it's not quite Zelda. And so that it may tilt the scales a bit towards Ocarina of Time. And speaking of tilting the scales, you guys, the poll is up right now, and Ocarina of Time is still in the lead, but it's shrinking. It's shrinking. So you guys are the ones that decide. You decide which of these games wins by voting in the poll here. And so we'll see. We're coming up on round number 5 right now, which is Legacy. Ocarina of Time established the blueprint for 3D action adventure. Its control systems, camera designs, dungeon structure, and the use of magic as a gameplay mechanic influenced not only future Zelda titles, but the broader industry. It has been re released across multiple generations of Nintendo hardware and is frequently cited as one of the most important and influential video games ever made. Breath of the Wild reshaped expectations for open world design. Its emphasis on freedom, physics based interaction, and emergent problem solving influenced developers across the industry and redefined the Zelda franchise. The game's design philosophy carried directly into its sequel and continues to serve as a point of comparison for modern open world games. And so, as we as we've been discussing all night, I think one of the things that stands out the most for me in the conversations when it comes to legacy is that when people think about going and going back to one of these games, at least from what I'm seeing the majority in chat, is that going back to Ocarina of Time, not difficult to do if you've played it before, but going back to Breath of the Wild, not something that a lot of people uh, feel like doing because it was so much. There was so much to it. That being said, there are people out there that love this game. They can go back to it over and over again, and you know, and more power to them. Like if they're having a great time, but I feel like the consensus is that as far as like replayability goes with these games, Ocarina of Time takes the crown on that one. But it is true, both of these games have been very they have influenced game design. You look at what they accomplished and you can see it in 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 so many other games. And one of the things I think was the most incredible about Breath of the Wild is that if you could see it, you could basically touch it. And that was so, so cool. When you're like, "Yo, that mountain over there, I wanna go. I wanna go to that mountain. I wanna see what is there. I wanna climb that mountain. Hopefully, it's not raining." Right? Because you did not wanna have to climb in the rain. That was the worst. Nady Nay said Zelda needs Marvel humor. Here we go. Cryptic said dungeons were missed. I kind of agree that Zelda was stale for a long time with the same formula, so I understand the need to change it up. For sure. Yeah. That is very real. That is very real. I just think that they changed it up enough with the open world that to have dungeons would still have worked. And I feel like Tears of the Kingdom really did a great job with it. Like a fantastic job with it. So, um Nate says why can Zelda evolve and remove dungeons but Metroid can't? Here we go. Here we go. Demonic Brawler said, "Can the next 3D Zelda game not feature uh, hours long of collectathon of Golden Poo?" That's a thing. That is most definitely a thing. I mean, to the point that I think there's some quality of life things that have happened to go back to Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, thanks to the app. The mobile app makes it easier to find things, which is super super cool. But it's also so strange that we are we are using our phone to play a Zelda game. So that is going to conclude our Nintendo Face Off for The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Get your votes in quick. Get your votes in quick. I'm gonna let you guys know these face-offs are decided by the NPC producer chat, and you are automatically placed in that producer chat by becoming a member here on YouTube. So if you want to play a part in deciding which games are going to go head to head each week, all you need to do is become a member here on YouTube, and that will give you the option to vote and even suggest in that chat. And that also bleeds over into regular NPC episodes as well. So it's as simple as becoming a member, linking your Discord to YouTube, and it automatically gives you the role. So it's very very easy to do, and gives you guys even more of a voice in this. And I appreciate everybody that is already a member. Thank you so much for that. The plug is out of the way, you guys. I'm looking at the poll right now, and Ocarina of Time takes the crown in this Nintendo Face Off. Ocarina of Time is your champion tonight. So, huge shout out to everybody that hung out. I do apologize. Looks like the video may be getting a little bit glitchy, and I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I need to get to the bottom of it. But appreciate everybody so much for hanging out, for sharing your input, and I don't know. I think it's time for me to finish up my playthrough of Ocarina of Time again because it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much, and as always, play it loud.